Miguel, thank you for kicking us off, getting us fired up. Great job. Thank you all for taking some time out of your life, being with us, welcoming us back here to Dallas. I gotta tell you that on a personal level, I have never felt this hopeful, never been so inspired. I've never been so excited about the future of this country. It's because every single one of you has put all that you've got, not just into a candidate or a campaign or a political party. You put everything that you've got into your faith that the future of this country is going to be greater than the past, that the best days are still ahead, and that each one of us together is going to decide this. The differences will not divide us. Our party, who we pray to, the country that we were born in, how many generations we can count ourselves a Texan or an American, or whether we just got here today. All that matters now is we are together. And the division and the partisanship, the pettiness, the meanness, the downright smallness that defines so much of this moment nationally, to that, we are the courage, with the confidence, with the strength, with a big, bold, beautiful heart that can only come from Texas, which is just what this country needs right now. But better than all that is that, Sydney, I don't know if you guys can talk about that. So, my voice is a little bit shot, and I'm looking for one. This is the really good part about all this. Is all that hope that we found. Someone just said right now, listen, I feel hopeful. You're making me feel hopeful. She's making me feel hopeful. We're all feeling hopeful. So what is that worth if it's not turned into action? It does not make a difference. If things do not get better. What you have done in Dallas, and yeah, that's better. Yeah. What you have done in Dallas and in Tarrant and in Collin and in Denton counties is nothing short of a miracle. And let me put it in numbers. Although this defies being quantified, let me give you a number that helps give you an idea of what's going on right now. In 2014, at this point in early voting, the last midterm election, in Dallas County there had been 71,000 votes cast. Not a small number. In 2018, same amount of time, there had been 225,000 votes cast. That's all of us putting this hope and this faith in the future into action, ensuring that without a dime from a single political action committee, no special interests, no corporations, everything on every single one of us, that we are deciding the future of this country. And we are deciding it in a way, not in opposition to anyone else or any other political party or really anything, but for what we believe in, for one another, and for the greatest country that this planet has ever known, the United States of America. And to every challenge, we meet it in that same spirit. Transcend the obstacles, make sure that we get past the differences, find enough common ground and common cause to achieve the common good. For those school teachers here, those public school educators, those librarians, those nurses, those counselors, those who serve the food in the cafeteria, drive the kids home at the end of the day in the buses, clean up after everyone is gone, to know that you are working a second or a third job that describes half of you in this state just to make ends meet. When you have perhaps the most important job, literally the future of this country, depending on your ability to connect with that kid in front of you, to unlock his lifelong love of learning so that he can be everything that he's supposed to be over the course of his life. When you're working against the challenges of that child maybe not having a square meal in his belly, That child being in the 7th or 8th home in the first 8 weeks of the school year, not knowing where they're going to sleep tonight. That child coming from a mixed immigration status family, not knowing if that father that they say goodbye to at the start of the day is going to come home to them, will be sent back to a country that that child has never seen. For that teacher, against those odds, and facing this requirement to teach to a high stakes, high pressure, standardized test that in no way effectively measures her performance in the classroom, or that child's potential to learn, for that teacher to still be able to connect and to make something almost magical happen with that child, to welcome them, to make them feel confident about themselves, to believe in what they can do, to unlock their potential over their lifetime. I want to make sure that that teacher knows that every single one of us has their back, that we are going to insist that they are paid a living wage so that they just have one job, the most important job possible, and that when they retire, it will not be a retirement of poverty in a state that has not paid a cost of living adjustment to retired teachers in 13 years, that doubled the cost of health care for those same teachers this last year, putting the god-awful decision before them. Do I pay for the note on the mortgage? Do I pay for food on the table? Do I help my own kids out now? Do I pay for the medications that keep me alive, extend my life, allow me to live my life to the fullest? No one, especially someone who's dedicated their life to public service, should ever have to ask themselves those questions. So if we want to do what is right, what is just, what is in our own self-interest, if we want to ensure that the next generation of public school educators in high school and in college and in graduate school today can answer the call, follow their inspiration, deliver that instruction to those kids, we've got to do the right thing right now. And Texas can be the state that stands up for public education. You guys with me on this? Texas, this defining border state, this immigrant story and experience, something that we live and understand as part of who we are, our families, the strength, the success, and yes, the security of our communities. El Paso, Texas. And I think I see a gentleman with the UTEP hat on back there. El Paso, what high school? Jefferson High, go Foxes. Eastwood Troopers. El Paso, Texas, connected with Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. More people from Juarez here than El Paso, apparently. I like that. Go Juaritos. 3 million from 2 countries, speaking 2 languages, who have 2 distinct histories and cultures, joined, not separated by the Rio Grande River, forming something far greater, something more amazing than the sum of their parts or their people. Ciudad Juarez, the place that I took Amy on our first date, a blind date, to the Kentucky Club, to drink a margarita where it was invented, to take in the sights and the sounds and the smells and the life of the largest binational community in the Americas, maybe one of the largest in the world. And what I share with my colleagues is that El Paso, Texas today is one of, if not the safest cities in the United States of America. Not in spite of the fact that we are a city of immigrants, not in spite of the fact that we are connected to Ciudad Juarez and to Mexico and to Chihuahua, but because there are so many people who have made the decision to leave their comfort, their hometown, their family, their country, to come here to ours, strangers in a strange land, starting anew for themselves and for their kids, but also for all of us, to give to and not take from the American dream. And we can share with the rest of the country that if we want to secure our communities, si queremos asegurar nuestras comunidades, nuestro estado, nuestro país, no necesitamos muros, we don't need walls, no necesitamos mandar el ejército, we don't need to send the military, necesitamos tratar cada persona, cada humano, con respeto y dignidad. When we do that, when everyone is treated with respect, everyone is treated with dignity, everyone has a shared future in this country, we become inherently stronger and safer and more secure. So what if this state, which bore witness to children being torn from the arms of their parents at their most desperate, their most vulnerable moment, having traveled 2,000 miles, 3 weeks, the length of Mexico on foot on top of a train known as the Beast, to find not the salvation or the safety that they sought, but their worst nightmare, that child taken from them, that parent deported back to the very country from which they fled, that little girl or boy in a foster care home somewhere, God only knows where, in the United States tonight, maybe in a tent city they call Tornillo, just outside of El Paso, knowing not when or even if they will see their parents again. This could be the same state which bore witness to that and now stands up to insist that never again will another child be taken from their parents. And those already separated will be reunited as quickly as possible, and we will move forward to rewrite our immigration laws in our own image, to reflect our families, our communities, what we know to be true, to be good, to be positive, making sure that they reflect our experiences, beginning with the fact that the more than 1 million dreamers who call this country their home, nearly 200,000 in the state of Texas, are every bit as American as anyone else here today. And so we should decide that we will permanently free them from any fear of deportation by making them U.S. citizens in this country, showing that they can contribute to their full potential over the course of their life. This state, where far too many of our fellow Texans are unable to see a doctor, afford their prescription medications, go to a therapist, get the help they need to be at their best over the course of their lives. This state, where the #1 provider of mental health care services today is the county jail system, to the point that people with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder are getting arrested on purpose to go to the one place where by law they are guaranteed treatment and care. How bad would things have to be for you to get arrested on purpose to be taken there? How great would your suffering be? And yet that's the case for far too many of our fellow Texans. The largest provider of mental health care services, not just the county jail system, the largest inpatient mental health care provider is the Harris County Jail. More inpatient mental health care beds there in a state of 28 million people than in all the mental health care clinics and hospitals in this state combined. Not only is it wrong, unconscionable, immoral, unjust, it's incredibly expensive to do it this way. $400 a night to keep someone locked up, to feed, to clothe, to house, to prescribe the psychotropic medications. $14.50 is what it would cost to take care of them on the outside for outpatient mental health care services. And you know, this is not a Democratic Party or Republican Party deal. This is making sure that we use limited resources as wisely as possible. It's a matter of fiscal prudence. It's a matter of common sense. It's a matter of doing the right thing from the standpoint of the wealthiest, the most powerful country, the same country whose citizens, it's all of us as taxpayers, have invested in the innovations and the research that have produced the cures and the medications so often sold back to us at the most expensive rates on the planet today. What if this state led the way on guaranteed, high quality, universal health care for every woman, every child, every man, every single animal? Specialty health care, primary health care, mental health care, and in a state that is at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis 3 times as deadly for women of color, universal health care also means every woman makes her own decisions about her own body and has access to the health care that ensures that she can. We should be leading in that. In a state that contributes to the largest prison population on the face of the planet, disproportionately comprised of people of color, a school-to-prison pipeline that begins as early as 5 or 6 years old, where in a kindergarten classroom, a child, depending on their race, may be disciplined, suspended, expelled up to 5 times the rate of another child of another race for the same infractions in front of the same teacher in the same school. What if when we said equity in education, we were not just talking about resources, but also investing in the training of every teacher so they better understand the students in front of them, and doing a better job of ensuring that the teachers look like the students in front of them, connect with the students in front of them, believe in the students in front of them. And if we can complement that, making sure that a criminal justice system, the weight of which disproportionately falls on the shoulders and backs of some more than others, when we know that Americans of all races use marijuana, for example, at the same rate. Some people excited about marijuana tonight. Be that as it may, let's understand. Let's understand this, right? Some people in this state, though it's against the law to use marijuana, effectively have it legalized. They don't have to fear arrest. They're never going to be searched. They're never going to be patted down. They can use it at their leisure. There will be others disproportionately. Because I was going to say that all Americans of all races use marijuana at the same rate. Only some are arrested more than others. Only some are more likely to do prison time. Only some will have a conviction for possession of a substance that's legal or decriminalized or medicinalized in most states in the country. A conviction which they will have to report on every employment application form, making it less likely that they get the job. A conviction that will prevent them from getting a Pell Grant, affording an education that will allow them to better themselves and do better for everyone in their life, their community, and their country. Possession of a substance that some in some other states are getting filthy rich legally selling right now. You gotta ask yourself, who will the last veteran be? Comes back from Afghanistan, whose doctor at the VA wants to prescribe them medicinal cannabis but cannot in Texas, forced to prescribe an opioid to which that veteran may become addicted, in a country that lost 70,000 Americans to drug overdose deaths last year. Who's going to be the last veteran to be an outlaw in the eyes of the law in Texas for doing that? Who's going to be the last person? Chances are a person of color, to do time behind bars, to have their options and choices and future constrained and narrowed. Some futures eliminated altogether for possession of something that's legal so much of the rest of the country. What if we decided that not only would we end the prohibition on marijuana, but we would expunge the arrest records of everyone who's done time for possession of a substance that's legal in so much of the rest of the country? Again, not just because it's the right thing to do, the just thing to do, but it allows every single one of us to have a better shot at rising to our full potential and contributing to the continued greatness of this country. Whatever it is, whatever the challenge. Some of you have come up to me and you've asked, what are we going to do about the fact that in this state, though it is not right, it is perfectly legal to be fired based on your sexual orientation, that in this state, we seriously debated a ban on transgender students using a bathroom in a public school, maybe in an effort to freak out parents or other students or who knows what. What about a state with 30,000 kids in the foster care system? CPS so underfunded until recently, kids sleeping under the desks, on top of the desks, needing a home to go to. But in this state, you can be too gay under the guise of religious protection and liberty to be able to adopt one of those kids. What if this were the same state to stand up for the full civil rights of every single one of us, regardless of who you are, regardless of your sexual orientation, again, to make sure that you can be who you're supposed to be, without fear right here in this state. Whatever the challenge, I know that we can face it. And speaking of challenges, the very youngest among us will remind us that if we do not get it right now, while the window is still open, while we still have a chance, if this planet cooks another 1.5 degrees Celsius, train is off the tracks. The droughts that we've experienced in North Texas and the Panhandle and West Texas, which threaten our supply of food and the fiber that nourishes and clothes so much of the planet today. The storms that we are still recovering from in the southeast in Rockport and Port Aransas, Port Arthur and Houston, rebuilding 3 times over the last 5 years, 3 500-year floods in just that time period. The scientists say they will become more frequent, more devastating, dump more rain. We will not just be worried about rebuilding. We will not be able to live in those communities going forward unless we do the right thing today. The chance is still with us. And our message to the people of the future, who will have to live with the consequences of the decisions that we make today, is that we hear you, we understand you, we're focused on you, not the polls, not the next election, not our political careers. We will make the tough political choices now to make sure that we are still an energy independent state and country, but that we do so far more responsibly than we do right now. That we seize upon our lead in renewable energy, and that we save this planet for the generations that follow. You are with me on that? We should be able to do that. So what you have done so far over the last 21 months of this campaign, where we have visited every single county in Texas. Someone last night, when we were visiting Midlothian, Texas, said, look, I don't mean this in an offensive way, but my friends and I have a drinking game. Every time you say 254 counties, somebody has to take a shot. So, if you are playing that drinking game, 254 counties, that's how many more counties that we've been to. Listen to everyone, going everywhere. You cannot be too Republican, cannot be too Democratic, cannot be too big city, cannot be too small town for us to have shown up, to listen to you, to find out what's on your mind, to see if we cannot represent and serve and fight for you in the United States Senate. And if we do everything within our power right now, beginning with voting tomorrow, which will be the 6th day of early voting, making sure that you tell everyone in your life that you have voted. In the year 2018, if you do not take a picture of what you have just done and post it on social media, it did not happen. We need this to be happening right now. We need to have happened. And if all of us are willing to do everything we can, pitch in, vote, talk to our colleagues, our classmates, our family members, our neighbors, complete strangers, the bartender tonight, make sure that everyone is voting. If you'll sign up to make sure that you're walking, knocking on doors, making phone calls, if we do everything that we can at this moment, this defining moment of truth, I guarantee you that all of us together are going to be celebrating an historic victory on the 6th of November.